There we go. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? All quiet, please. Speaking of Robin Williams. Go ahead, take your notes out. We're going to wrap up notes today. We are going to have review for my test. We'll go over a few things here. It won't take that long. If we were to do a big unit, we would do a much longer review. And then we're going to do a scenario in here determining whether or not you guys would go for a dictatorship or for democracy, given a set of circumstances, unique circumstances. So we'll have some time for that. I'm glad to see you guys here. We actually got a full crew here. You guys are aware that the that elementary is shut down for 2 weeks, and they'll open up hopefully again in October the 5th. And here it's gotten more stringent with respect to like face masks, Trey. But I can tell you, so I'm wearing a face mask now because that's the directive. But I will explain to you that the reason why I'm holding this face mask out during much of the time period is because if I put it like this, eventually I'm not going to be able to breathe real well. And you don't want that, do you, Jenna?
Yes, Jenna.
Do you want it, JT?
No.
Thank you, JT. If something were to happen, what 3 numbers come to mind?
911.
That's good, in that order, okay? So hopefully that won't be the case. Any of you guys know CPR? You're like, you're scaring me, Mr. Hansen. Stop talking that way. So I'm just going to pull it out like this because when I first started doing that yesterday, it was really hard. I discovered that like I teach, like some people play basketball or volleyball or taekwondo or dance or whatever. I do it with a lot of breath and expression, right? Which is why when I was wearing the shield, I would have to wipe it off like after every couple of periods because I'm like, really? That's nasty. I mean, because there was like a lot of like moisture content and other things. Ew, yeah, but I mean, it's like your breath. You know, if you could look at your breath. Anyway, so that's the way I teach. Yeah, so I'm going to be pulling this out and so forth. All right, is that okay? Right, so it'll all collect right within here, but I'll still be able to breathe. And we don't have to do 911 or 119 or 9, anyway, whatever the thing is that you guys, okay? 9. So next time we get together, we'll have a test. It'll be fairly quick. Do you want to write down what the test is going to, some of the parameters of the test? Because I've got it right here. Some of the parameters of the test, because people are like, I like to know what's in a test. Pay attention. Okay? Focus. Put that away. It's actually only 10 questions. Weird, Mr. Hansen. Usually the number of questions is equal to the number of points. This one, I came up with it. It's got 10 questions, and each is worth 2 points. Some of it is, actually, it's all matching, and there's 4 fill in the blank. Oh, my gosh. And fill in the blank, you want to come close enough to the actual spelling of it so I could recognize what the word is that you actually are trying to use. Does that make sense? So, like if the answer was to be constitutional monarchy, without looking, can anyone spell that? Is there a K in constitutional monarchy? No. It sounds like there is constitutional monarchy, right? It's the K sound is CH, monarch. It looks like monarchy, but it's monarchy. I don't know. I don't create the spelling of all these various different things. Okay? Sorry? Yeah, but I can't do everything. God, you know. I mean, I can stop communism and end the Cold War, but I can't change the entire alphabet of every known language into some kind of like perfect, sensible form. It's not going to happen. Yeah, and then you want to communicate with other people in the rest of the world, and they're like, what are you saying? Yeah. It's true, and there are some people that know that they have made up, like, they try to make up an international language, like Esperanto is an international language. It's got different elements from different things. Anyway, we continue. You guys ready? We're going to wrap up with the remainder of this particular unit. We're into types of governmental authority, And then we're going to get into a review for the test, and then we're going to get into our experiment on democracy and dictatorship, which will be a little bit different. You'll be the first group that I've done this with a little bit differently. All right, here we go. Write this down. We have, let me pull the first slide up, actually the last slide up from a particular part. Okay, we've got this chart here, which is going to help us because I'm going to be talking about some of the information here, and you're going to be making sure that it ends up in your notes. This is the basics. I mean, literally, we're going to be doing an entire unit on, boom, the Constitution of the United States of America. That's a big, important document. In fact, write that down. That is more important in the United States than any of the individual people that we're going to talk about in our governmental systems, our national, state, and local governmental systems.
Quickly, I accidentally deleted like the huge conflict. How do I press to get it back? Control one.
Good thing somebody knows the answer. You guys are so much smarter technologically. So, Constitution is the most important thing. When we get over to the judicial branch, we're actually going to spend a lot of time talking about the judicial branch next semester. It is really, really important, and perhaps more so than you guys imagine. It's one thing that students get out of my class, for government class. I mean, they already know that the president is an important position, but do they know how important the 9 members of the Supreme Court are? Actually, well, you're going to. It's 8 right now, and President Trump is going to send a nominee to the United States Senate, because they get to make the decision whether or not the nomination will actually be approved or not. President Trump has identified already that he will be submitting a name this Saturday. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was on the Supreme Court, she died at age 87. Her funeral is taking place this week. She's lying in state in the Supreme Court building as well as in the Capitol building. I read that that was the first female to ever lie in state in the United States Capitol building. And so that replacement, Trump says it's going to be a woman. And there's some speculation as to who it might be because he's already given a list of names of people who he would consider to be on the court if there was a vacancy, and now there's a vacancy. Where does it go next? The United States Senate. Will it pass? I'm watching very carefully because some people are like, wait until the next president is elected. Would Biden pick somebody quite different than Trump?
Yes.
You can count on that. Oh, absolutely. As we go through, interpretations of the Constitution vary quite differently depending on who the people are on the court. You're going to learn a lot this year.
Has someone from the Supreme Court ever like told themselves that they can get out?
No, you can resign. You can resign. You're appointed. So you're identifying something that is going to be part of all of your knowledge, which some of you guys knew this. If you're appointed to the Supreme Court, can you stay there and put that away, please? If you're appointed to the Supreme Court, can you stay on there the entire rest of your life? Yes. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that's what she did. Right? She was appointed, like, I want to say in the mid-90s, and so she served over 20 years on the Supreme Court. She died. The last 2, let me see. Actually, the last one was to replace a man who retired. You can retire. So you don't have to, like, yeah, I mean, it's for life or your choice of leaving it. But it's interesting, the last 3 vacancies, 2 of them have been as a result of the person dying. Yeah, and the other one was just over 4 years ago, and President Obama, Democrat, was like, okay, I want to appoint the replacement. And the Republicans were in the majority in the Senate, and they're like, we're not going to do anything with it. We're going to wait until the election result, which is, could have turned out either way. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, she would have chosen somebody, probably fairly similar to Obama. Trump was elected. He chose somebody quite different. Who's got the majority in the Senate right now, Republicans or Democrats? Republicans do. It's like 53 to about 47. And pretty much all those Republicans have said, let's do this. Let's get this done. Of course, then some of the Democrats are going, no! And so there's lots of different discussions about what could be done. And so we'll follow that as we go along. Needless to say, the Supreme Court is a big, big deal. And issues like, I don't know, how many of you guys have strong opinions one way or another about the issue of, abortion? Okay? That is an issue that the Supreme Court has taken up over many years. and it has been interpreted under the Constitution. Anybody know what the Constitution says about abortion according to the Supreme Court? Anybody know? You think you know? Go for it. Everyone, every female. Only females get pregnant. So far. No. That is not what the Supreme Court says relative to abortion. Supreme Court has said, there are people that like disagree with the Supreme Court, okay, which sounds like maybe you might be. Supreme Court says that the Constitution says every female that becomes pregnant has the right over her own body relative to whether or not she carries it to term or whether or not an abortion takes place. That's what the Supreme Court said. Oh, write that down. That's going to be in the last part of your notes. And that's going to be like, oh, wow, I'm learning some things already. Who gets the final say, most of the time, on what the Constitution says? The answer is the Supreme Court. So therefore, when I say, yes, the president is a very important person in our government, but perhaps more important are people serving on the United States Supreme Court. Donald Trump, maximum number of years as president? What would be the maximum number of years? Ava, do you know? Yeah. 8, yeah. 4-year term, another 4-year term. What's the maximum number of years for somebody on the Supreme Court? I mean, until they die. And if they're put in there, one of the people that Trump apparently is considering right now, I want to say she's like 48. She could be on there for a long, long time, yeah. Go for it. Very good question. In 1869, that was the last time Congress adjusted the number of people on the Supreme Court. It started out in the very early years as 3. I don't know that it's ever gotten as big as 11, but it was like 5 and 7 and something like that in between. They usually liked it to be an odd number, but here's an interesting question because this is what some folks are saying. Well, if Trump gets his person on the Supreme Court and then, they've got a lot of influence on there, we'll just add 2 more people if Democrat is elected president, Democrats are in control of the House, Democrats are in control of the Senate. Then they could add 2 more people. That's going to be a big deal because when was the last time, to answer your own question, when was the last time that this, the number of people on the Supreme Court was changed and it got set at 9? 1869. That was a long, long time ago. No, it wasn't. It was on our planet.
So basically, if you're president, you're hiring someone to say yes to what you do.
Are you talking about for the court?
Well, like, if you're president, you hire someone to the Supreme Court to say.
This is a good question. I'll answer it right now. Okay? The question was, if you're the president and you hire people, because Trump has put people in lots of different positions, most of those people are responsible to President Trump. If he doesn't like what they're doing, he's like, you're fired, right? Or here, put your resignation letter on my desk in the morning and I will accept it. But not the court. When we get to the court, we're going to see this. In fact, you might as well write it down right now. We're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit, but it's an important point. The judicial branch, especially for the national government, not so much for the state, but for the national government, once they're put into position, they stay there. They can't be fired by the people who put them in there. So like, for example, Trump could be disappointed with maybe some of the decisions of some of the people that he put on the Supreme Court. Can he do anything about it other than tweet? No. I mean, he knows how to tweet. He will. I mean, his Twitter is his thing. That is his mode of communication. And so he will tweet positive things about people he likes and negative things about people he doesn't like and so forth and so on. But can he fire somebody on the Supreme Court? No. Okay? And that's the way the Constitution was set up. We'll obviously be looking at that and see why it was set up that way. So let's back it up just a moment. All right, you ready? Let's get some of the basics. Just kind of, I think we got a little bit of this last time. Just to reiterate, we got 3 branches of government. How many of you guys are like, I remember that as a concept, maybe even all the way back to elementary school? Yeah, that's a basic, like, civics concept. 3 branches of government. So this will be easy. The legislative branch does what primarily, Vera? You don't know? What's that? You know there's 3. Okay, you know there's 3. I'll give you a clue. You got 3 choices. The legislative branch does which of these primarily? Interprets laws, carries out laws, or makes laws? Which one do you want? No. Shh. Don't listen to JT. JT, quiet. Interprets the laws, carries out the laws, makes the laws. What do you say? Carries out the laws? How many guys go for that as the answer? Nope. We want to try another one? Anybody want to go with interpret? It's going to be the other one. All right. Okay. Write this down. Legislative branch makes the laws. Okay. I don't think we got to that point last time. Because this, did we? Okay. Okay. What else? So if you got that in your notes, what else did it do? Because there were 2 other things that we want to make sure that you guys have. They make the budgets, okay? What's a budget? The amount of money that can be spent, okay? And so everyone got that? So you make the laws, you make the budget for like how the money's going to be spent on carrying out the laws and so forth. And then what did you have for the third one? That's the only one? You had one. Oversight. What was oversight, Jana? Yeah. Prove that you did something. So I'm going to overlook, I'm going to oversee to make sure that you did something. So if I send JT on a task, JT, I've given you a task, and they've given you money to carry out that task. And then how do I know that you did that task and that you did the money right? You what? Oh, you give them a receipt and give them money back. And you bring them back in, and they answer questions, and they fill out reports and so forth. So they have to prove that they did what they were supposed to do. Does that make sense? Otherwise, I don't know. Well, here's one. So Congress, okay, the legislative branch. And here, you can write this down. For the national government, it's Congress. Make sure you write that down. There's the national government, and the legislative branch is called Congress. So a lot of times you'll hear me talking about Congress. Actually, the Congress has 2 different parts. Yes, Congress is the national legislative branch. And there's 2 different parts to it. What are the 2 different parts? Yes? The House and the Senate. House of Representatives and the Senate. Did I ask you this one? My dad was in Congress, Orville Hanson. Which one was he in, the House of Representatives or the Senate? He was in the House, yeah. He was one of 435 members of the House of Representatives. You're like, do I have to know that for the test? Not this test, a later one. This one's easier. Senate, you guys should remember this from last year because it was a compromise among the states, the Connecticut Compromise. You remember that one? Every state gets 2 senators, even if they're a small state, they get 2. So therefore, Ava, how many senators are there in the United States Senate? How'd you get that? No, that's right. Actually, there's 100. How'd you get it? No, you're not. It's a simple mathematical equation. If you have 2 senators per state, how many states do we have? 50. We got 50 stars, so therefore it's 100. Very good. All right, yeah. Good question. Every 10 years, they shift it around. The bigger the state is, the more representatives they get. But people move, right? So some states will lose maybe a representative or 2. Some states will pick up some. Idaho is expected to pick up another representative. We have 2. We'll go up to 3, but not this next time. They do it every 10 years with the census. Have you heard about that? That's like the national count. They do it every 10 years, but probably we're not going to get it this time. But maybe next time we'll be, yes, we got 3 out of 435. Which state has the most representatives? California, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
How many representatives in California?
Shh, guys, quiet, please. I want to say California's got like 55, 56, somewhere in there. Texas is like up in the 30s. Yeah, I think Texas is the 2nd largest population now. It used to be New York, but now I believe it's Texas. Shh. Quick answer. You got a lot of good questions, but I don't want to get too sidetracked because we got other things I've got on here. Basically how it works this way. You take a state, and you determine how many representatives they have based on their population, and then you draw lines in that state to break them out into separate districts. In each district, you have roughly the same population. So Idaho, we get 2 representatives. We got one, like my dad represented, the eastern part of the state, and then we got another, first district, which is the western part of the state. So guess which district Boise is in, or Ada County is in? It's in both, because it's so many people in Ada County. I can't breathe. You basically draw a line through Ada County, and so like Boise is in the 2nd district, all the way to the Wyoming border, and then like Meridian and I think Kuna and Eagle and so forth, and then everything to the west and north is in the 1st district. So that's how they divide it up. But like you go to California, there are a lot of people living in San Francisco, so you can make, it looks like a really small district, but there's as many people in that district as there are for some big, huge, massive expanse that maybe doesn't have as many people per acre, but they're roughly equal. Okay? All right, now, where was I? Legislative branch, oversight. Oh, you wanted an example of oversight. So let's say Congress created a budget for the post office, the United States postal system. And they want to know, how are things going in the postal system? Is the postal system important, say, in the next month and a half? You're going, yeah, for like what, besides delivering junk mail? Oh, the voting part, right, because I requested my absentee ballot because it's like, I mean, I usually do that because it's convenient. I vote at home and then I pop it in the mail, and it ends up getting there. But more people are doing that. In Idaho, you can do absentee ballot through the mail system, or you can, I think they still are setting it up so you can actually vote in person. So they held oversight hearings, I want to say in the House or Senate, and they brought people in from the post office. In fact, the guy who was in charge of the postal system, and they asked him questions like, are you guys going to be ready for the election? Are all the ballots going to be delivered on time? And so forth. All right? Does that make sense? That's a really good, very present example of oversight. Okay? All right. Continuing on with legislative. Let's continue on with legislative, shall we? Oh, by the way, just to clear it up, executive, interpret the law or carry out the law? Carry out the law. Okay? And judicial is going to be interpreting the law. That's the primary function of those, although we will see some overlaps. Like, so for example, here's an easy one. Some of you guys know this. What do you think, Anna? If Congress passes a law and says, we've just made a law, is that it? Can the president do anything? Yeah, the president has that legislative power too. The president's like, good idea, I'll sign it. Boom. It's a law. Or veto it, in which case it's probably dead, unless the veto is overridden, goes back to the House and Senate. You don't have to write this down yet. 2/3 vote to override in the House, 2/3 vote to override in the Senate. Boom! It's law, and the president looks like a big loser for trying to override a veto, trying to veto a bill that was very, very popular in the House and Senate. Okay, so sometimes, you can make a little note. In our country, sometimes you get a little bit of an overlap in the powers between the 3 different branches. We will fill in all those lovely details as we go along. That's where it gets fun, but we're just getting the basics now. Yes?
Going back to the legislators, can they, for example, make the budget more and then like a couple weeks later make it less?
Usually they'll do a budget for like a year, and then if they need to like add things, they'll put it in the next budget year. We're actually on the current budget for the state of Idaho, the education budget, and then COVID hit, and the governor's like, uh-oh, the economy's not doing so well, and they put a 5% holdback on everything that was in the budget. So education actually like had 5% not going in as much as was anticipated. All right, next. Quickly, you guys got too many questions. Although that's good. I'm trying to think. It doesn't happen very often. I want to say there might have been one in Trump's presidency, but only one. And actually just the idea that you could have a veto overridden kind of makes you look and go, I'll let it become law because I don't want to lose this particular fight. Okay? Legislative branch for the state of Idaho. Write it down. For the state of Idaho. What is the name of the thing, the institution for the state of Idaho?
Idaho legislature.
Very good. Idaho legislature. Okay? It looks like legislative, but the last three letters are U-R-E, the Idaho Legislature. My dad served in the Idaho Legislature before he served in the United States Congress. My uncles, John and Reed, served in the Idaho Legislature. Reed served in the House of Representatives. John served in the the Senate. They also break it apart in Representative Senate for that. My brother, Jim, served in the House of Representatives in the Idaho Legislature. I ran for the Idaho House of Representatives Legislature, District 18, House Seat A, and lost. Did I tell you about that? I lost. My students were like, you should run. What should your issue be? What was my big issue? Yeah, I put it on my sign. Support education. And good news, bad news. What do you want?
Both.
I'll give you both. What do you want first?
Bad.
Okay, bad. I got creamed. I mean, it was like, I got like 33% of the vote, right? Although, good news, it was the highest percentage in modern Idaho history of a percentage vote for a independent or third-party candidate running for the legislature. So yes, thank you very much. But I still got creamed. Okay, but it was fun. I mean, that was in the year 2002. What? No, I haven't put anything on there for 18 years. Eight. No, thank you very much. I'm spending time with you. I'm busy. Yeah. By the way, so Idaho Legislature, they make the laws for the state of Idaho. Got that? All right, now, what about local government? What are some examples of some local legislatures? Well, I'll give you some. For Eagle City Council. Meridian City Council. Do you see like a trend here? Boise City Council. Okay? West Ada School District. The West Ada School District School Board makes the rules. North Star, the North Star School Board. And they've been pretty busy lately. They met on Monday, and they made a big decision. Yeah. To keep us here and to have the elementary, like, go off for 2 weeks. Okay? Yeah. Okay? That was to check and see kind of how things were and to assess that. Yeah. So as the assessment came in, it's like, we need to put the holds on this. So they're doing entirely remote. Any of you guys have younger siblings that are like doing the remote learning elementary? Yeah. Okay? So there you go. And shh. Hey, shh. Don't joke about it. Yeah, so that's what's going on, and hopefully everything's just fine in your house. It's like parents got to help out again. Whew. All right. Executive. Let's get to the executive branch. What did you put down there as far as what does it mean? What is the responsibility for the executive branch? Okay? To carry out the laws. Write this down. To carry out the laws, to spend the budgets. When most people think of government, they think of people who like work for the government. They work in the executive branch. So like, let me see. The national executive branch. The United States military. There's a lot of people working in the United States military. They're carrying out the function of national security. We got a lot of people like in the Postal Service. We got a lot of people in various different components. Now, write this down. What is the top position in the executive branch? Yes? President of the United States. Very good. What is the title of the position just below the president? Vice President. Very good. In case the president needs to not be there. I mean, it's like, if the president dies, then we got a vice president. Lyndon Johnson, president number 36. Yeah.
So when the president dies for 4 years, then the vice president comes.
Correct. Very good question. We'll see later when we do the Constitution. There is a provision to fill a vacancy in the vice presidency. Okay? So that's what happens now. It wasn't always that way. So when Lincoln was shot, his vice president took over, and there was a vacancy in the vice presidency for the remainder of that term. So we amended the Constitution, I want to say like in the 1960s, so that like, that doesn't happen again, because we like to be able to have like the president spare, and then an opportunity to replace have another spare. I mean, that's part of what the vice president does. I mean, like, it's not the most, it's a cool position, it's very powerful if your boss dies. But other than that, the vice president doesn't have a lot of authority, as we'll go through and see.
So if the vice president takes over, can he run for president?
Of course. In fact, that's what Lyndon Johnson did. After Kennedy was killed, Lyndon Johnson became president, and then he ran in 1964. No, he won. In fact, I'll tell you what he won as a Democrat. He was the last Democrat to win in the state of Idaho. Every other presidential election since then, a Republican candidate has won in the state of Idaho, which tells you that Idaho is, if you haven't noticed it already, a very Republican state. Quick question.
This year was being used, but has the vice president ever attempted to kill the president?
No, not that I'm aware of. That sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. You can write the book. All right, next. We got to keep going on this. Oh my gosh, we're not going to get to all the really cool stuff that I really wanted to because we're going to start running out of time. State executive. Idaho, the top state executive position. Raise your hand if you can tell me what that position is. Governor. Write it down. The governor. Okay? Now, again, you're going to see as we go through details and so forth, the governor doesn't have all the power in the executive branch, but is the most important. The president doesn't have all the power in the executive branch, but is clearly the most important in the national executive branch for the president, governor, for the state of Idaho executive branch. In fact, I think every single other state, their top executive position is called governor.
Going to the Supreme Court,
We haven't got there yet.
why not, like, because they can't get fired, like, what happens if they, like, come in and sign and have to wait?
They can get fired that way. There is a provision, it's called impeachment and removal from office. We'll get into the details later on for that. Okay? Now, for a local executive, let me see, what do you suppose the top executive position would be, say, for the city of Eagle? Mayor, very good. M-A-Y-O-R, mayor. Okay? And it doesn't necessarily always follow, because sometimes it's like they kind of like share things and you get little overlaps, like Ada County. The Ada County commissioners make the rules, so they're legislative, but they also carry out a lot of it as executive positions, so, you know. Okay? And actually the North Star Board, do they carry out all of the rules and so forth that they do? No, they basically hire. So what are the top people in North Star that are hired to carry out that executive function? Yeah, the chairman of the board is like chairing that board, that legislative component. Our principals, our administration. Ms. Anderson, of course, is going to be one of those, right?
Who's the top guy?
It's kind of shared. It's like Ms. Davis in the elementary and Ms. Anderson, and then Mr. Boganoff is also part of that. They kind of like have a team. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that right now. Ready? Judicial. What do we say judicial? What is the judicial function? Very good. Excellent. To interpret the laws. Now, not only to interpret laws, say, passed by the legislature, but this is why the judicial branch, especially for the national government, is really super important. They interpret the Constitution. And the Constitution, make sure you have this written down, that is higher than any person or any law that is created by these functions here. And the highest court in the national government judicial branch interpreting the law, what is the name of the highest court? The United States Supreme Court. Very good. The U.S. Supreme Court. And as you guys have already identified, they're appointed and they're in there for life. They don't come up for election. Pretty much all the other ones do. North Star Board, up for election. President of the United States, up for election. United States Supreme Court, not up for election. And there's lower courts as well in that national court system.
So, if someone, like, say, like in Idaho, someone were to get murdered, like, someone killed someone.
That's
would
very
someone
sad.
with some Supreme Court person have to come and be like the judge?
We'll spend plenty of time when we get to our judicial unit. That will be handled by like a trial court. And you'll have a jury trial. When I was a prosecutor once upon a time, I don't know if you guys knew this, I was a prosecutor before I went into education. We would have a trial with witnesses and a jury. And if that case was appealed, like somebody said, oh, that wasn't right, or that wasn't right, or that wasn't right, they would appeal up to a higher court. The highest court in the United States of America is the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay? Are there state courts? Is there a state judiciary? Yes. What is the highest court? Let's see if you know this one. What is the highest court in the state of Idaho? It is called the Idaho Supreme Court. Yeah. And once upon a time, I worked there too. Not as a Supreme Court justice. I worked as a clerk. I helped the Supreme Court Chief Justice do work. That was the first job I had coming out of law school. It's pretty cool. Me and another clerk did a lot of research and writing and so forth. It was really a fun job. Very interesting. Okay, so that's in the state system. Actually, interesting question. Is there a local judiciary? No, not really. No, not so much. It pretty much is like state, and that's how it works. All right, questions? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So what would happen if something like a law in the Constitution was like, turned around, like for example, it says people have right to bear arms. What if people would ban those all over, then what would happen?
Quick answer. So the question is, what if somebody passed a law, what if Congress passed a law, President signed it, and then somebody goes, oh yeah, that law is unconstitutional. Well, they would file a case in a court, and then maybe that case would make its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court would rule. And if they said, yeah, this law, nice law, but it goes against the Constitution, clearly, or as we read it, then that law would be thrown away.
So they cannot do that if it was against the Constitution at all?
Yeah. So sometimes you'll hear people say, let's pass a law on this, and they do, and then other people are like, well, if you do, it's just going to get thrown out by the Supreme Court. And they're like, yeah, well, we're going to take that chance. Yeah. So then it makes its way up to the Supreme Court. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Right now, like for example on the abortion issue, can females have an abortion? Yes. Is there any real limitation on that? No. So they can have an abortion throughout the entire time of the pregnancy. Some states have said, we're going to ban abortion. So they pass laws, and people are going, that's not going to fly with the Supreme Court. Like, has the Supreme Court ever changed its mind? Yes, sometimes the Supreme Court changes its mind. We'll look at a very good example of that next semester, where once upon a time, many southern states were like, let's separate whites and blacks, segregate schools. Oh my gosh, and the Supreme Court said, that's okay. It was actually in your unit last semester. Plessy versus Ferguson. Sure, separate but equal, have a black school and a white school. But in the 1950s, the Supreme Court, with a different membership, looked at that and said, no. That is unconstitutional. Brown versus Board of Education. No. All you schools that are segregated, no more. No mas. So that's an example of sometimes where the Supreme Court changes its mind. Another real quick thing here is, if you don't like what the Constitution says or what the Supreme Court says about it, change the Constitution. Quit. No. Quit complaining. Just change it. There's a process to amend it. Like, how hard can that be? I mean, how many times has the Constitution been amended? Only 27 times. And the first 10 occurred like within the first couple of years. It's very hard to change the Constitution. It requires the support of 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and 3/4 of all the states. I want to do a review for you guys because that's the last thing we're going to make sure that you guys have. You ready? We're going to do this. Okay? Because I want you guys walking out of here at least going, oh, well, at least we had a review. Okay? You do. In fact, this is how we do it. Okay? Michael, you get the first question. And if you don't know it, that's okay. If you look at something, you can look at your materials. That's fine too. Or people can raise their hands, and if you call on them, if you're not sure, they can give the answer too. The key thing is you want to be able to get a sense of what all kinds of is out there on the test, right? How many guys are like, yeah, let's do the review. I like the review. The more, the better. All right, Michael, here's your question. What is the kind of government called? It's not a constitutional monarchy, okay? It is a type of democracy, and in fact, it's an indirect democracy. I want the specific name also for indirect democracy, and it's a word that's actually in our Pledge of Allegiance. Do you know that? If you're not sure, you can call on somebody. Perfect. It's a republic. Very good. All right, Michael, you can call on the next person. Who goes next? Okay, Trey. Yeah, no, I mean, I can call on anybody. Everyone's going to have to do these questions later on. Trey, here's your question. Give me the name of the kind of government where you have few people ruling. Now, this is the overall title. We know some examples of, like, so for example, in the old days, it's noble rule, and in modern times, you get like totalitarian dictatorship by a group. What is that term referred to as a few people rule? And by the way, it doesn't have a K in it, although it sounds like it does. Perfect. Yes. I know. I couldn't hear it. Okay, because I was talking. Give me a break. All right, Trey, who goes next?
Big.
JT, here's your question. JT, you guys learned this last time. We talked about how in some countries, all power, most all power is in the national government. But in other countries, like the United States, there's a lot of power sharing between the national and the state and local. What is that last one called where there's a lot of power sharing between the national and state and local? Everyone's looking, got some hands up already. People are feeling pretty confident about that. Don't be fed up. Oh, it is not. No, it's not totalitarian dictatorship. Okay? You can call on somebody if you're not sure. And make sure you have this. No, it shows up in democracies. Federal or federalism, a federal system. Make sure you write that down if you don't have it already, because that's one of the key terms. Federalism, power sharing between the national and state and local governments. Okay? Got that? Do you see that on the handout that I gave you? Federalism, I want to say it's like, yeah, it's like the last bullet point before we get into types of governmental authority. Okay, JT, who go next? Who go next? Okay, Jana, you got 3 choices. Give me the type of governmental authority that carries out oversight, they do budgets, and they make laws. Of the, what? That is the legislative branch. Very good. Okay, Jana, who goes? Noah, here's your question. Give me the type of legitimacy objective. Remember, we got 4 legitimacy objectives. You're like, man, we need to have national security, domestic security, economic social satisfaction, and freedom. Give me the type of one that has really, really helped for the United States geographically, like being located between 2 really big oceans. Which? Perfect. National security, right? So that gives that nice buffer. Good. Who goes next? Scott, here's your question. Scott, give me, we got different kinds of governmental systems, and this has got a democracy, but what kind of democracy is it? What does Britain have? I'll give you a clue. It is not a republic. I'll give you another clue. It's not a totalitarian dictatorship, because that's not democracy. What is it called? A constitutional, yeah. It's the mask. Perfect. A constitutional monarchy. Very good, Scott. Very good. All right, who goes next? Anna. All right. Give me the name of this type of authoritarian governmental system, autocratic governmental system. It's very old school, and it passes down from generation to generation. Absolute monarchy. Very good. All right, who goes next? Vera, give me the kind of autocracy that has the least freedom. You want the 2 choices? Absolute monarchy and totalitarian dictatorship. Which has the least? It really sucks there. Do you guys say so? No, it's going to be the totalitarian dictatorship. It's more modern think because they got more access to like technology that can spy on everyone. Okay? Who goes next? Ava. Okay, here is your question. Okay? What is the legitimacy objective that some governments don't do because they've really like never developed it and hasn't taken deep root? It would really upset me, but it doesn't exist in some countries. Freedom, yeah, the protection of freedom. We actually got through a lot of those, which is good. We'll do the dictatorship democracy thing. Obviously, that wasn't a realistic objective to do that. Maybe we'll do that like right after your test next time. Little test next time. Oh, yeah, be ready. Yeah, afterwards, I think we'll go right to that. And then we'll get into the Russia like the following time.
Wait, are we going to have an animal farm under that?
Under normal circumstances, we would have Animal Farm and a number of documentaries. To the extent that I can get those documentaries available on YouTube, that'll be like home viewing. But I don't know if Animal Farm, the one that I show, is available there. So that could be a problem.